Hi, I'm Alana Rubel, the House Minority Leader here at the Legislature, bringing you this week's House Minority Report, letting you know what's happening in your Statehouse this week. We've seen more dangerous developments on the path to taking away the power of Idaho voters to impact their government. In addition to Senate Bill 1110, which would effectively terminate citizens' ballot initiative rights, we're seeing more voter suppression bills, most notably House Bill 223, which passed the House yesterday, which would make it a felony to help a friend or neighbor deliver their ballots for them. We find this very concerning because, well, first at a basic level, it criminalizes behavior that should not be criminalized. If you help an elderly or senior neighbor by delivering their ballot at their request, most people would consider that a good deed and not a felony. But beyond that, a similar bill was struck down by a court in Montana because it had such discriminatory effect against Native Americans on tribal reservations. It's often quite a distance to get to a polling place or even to get to a post office. And so folks will help drop off and pick up each other's mail. And sometimes folks will go around to tribal members and help collect their ballots and drop them off to make sure that their votes count. This would criminalize that behavior and would be a real setback to tribal voting rights. We're also seeing House Bill 219 work its way through, which would really crack down on student voting by limiting students' ability to register to vote with a student ID. And to me, it feels like we should be doing everything we can to help youth vote more. We want to be increasing their turnout rates, not throwing obstacles in their path to prevent students from voting. So this one's a real concern. I hope you'll write in and try to block both House Bill 219 and House Bill 223. Other concerning things that happened, House Bill 101 went through, which was a bill to try to crack down on the Attorney General's ability to give legal advice to government agencies. There are actually a few bills along these lines making their way through. Many in the legislature aren't too happy with our Attorney General, I think precisely because he tends to be a pretty straight shooter and will often tell people when their ideas are not constitutional. Some people don't like to hear that their pet bill idea is not constitutional, and so they want to take it out on the Attorney General by cutting him out of the loop. So this bill would allow agencies to bypass the Attorney General and instead shop around for an attorney in the private market, presumably one who will tell them what they want to hear. This would be really costly because it's about $58 an hour to get the Attorney General and about $470 an hour to get an attorney on the private market. And it could backfire further if these hired gun attorneys are being picked because they will tell people what they want to hear, which could lead the state into costly litigation that they will lose down the road. Because ultimately, you want a lawyer who's going to tell you what the law really is, not what you want to hear. Other things happening, still waiting for a hearing on my clean slate bill to let people petition to seal their records for minor offenses. We passed the wrongful conviction bill, providing recompense for people who were wrongfully imprisoned. And we did hit some frightening glitches on Medicaid this week. We barely passed the bill to fund Medicaid expansion. It only got through thanks to Democratic votes. And the Republicans on the floor did kill a bill for a Medicaid stabilization fund, which would have taken excess funds during years like this and put them in a stabilization fund to make sure that in future years we are able to steadily fund Medicaid expansion and we don't run into problems where we keep having to fight every year just to get it funded. That was a really good bill, and it was really unfortunate that it went down. But those are some of the highlights and lowlights from the week. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Good afternoon. This is Senator Michelle Stennett, Minority Leader in the Senate, talking to you this week about what has happened in the Senate that you might find interesting. I can't even begin to tell you everything that's happened, except that we're not passing much of anything, but we are having a lot of discussion about a lot of things. But it is extraordinarily slow as far as doing our business. We are constitutionally required to pass budgets and to balance a budget for every year. And as far as I know, I haven't looked at today, but we've probably passed only 7 pieces of legislation after 7 weeks of being here. So there is the fear that we are probably going to be here into April. So unfortunately, that means that the legislature causes more mischief in my mind. But I want to let you know, give you some examples of what just today. Now, mind you, we're over typically the halfway point, and yet we are still fabricating bills, and some of these are something that will impact you, so I wanted to let you know about it. In our Senate State Affairs today, we brought into committee a new initiative ballot bill which is prohibiting signature gatherers from gathering signatures from outside of the state of Idaho. And what that means is you still have to be a registered voter in order for your signature to be valid, but the signature gathering cannot be outside of the state. And I understand this was because people, let's say they are proponents for cannabis, and all of our states around us are, of course, have medical marijuana or recreational marijuana, and they don't want signature gatherers, if it's a cannabis bill, to go be collecting it in the parking lot of a cannabis store. But the problem with that is that it also prohibits people who work in their businesses where they're not in state, but they are Idaho residents, or more importantly, what about our servicemen and women who are not in Idaho, but are Idaho citizens? They will not be able to be participants in an initiative process, which I just frankly disagree with. So keep your ears open on that one. We also, again, passed another joint resolution to amend the Idaho Constitution that allows for the legislature to be able to call itself into an extraordinary session if within 15 days it has acquired enough signatures, 60% of both the House and the Senate, in order to approve us coming outside of the regular session for certain topics. So it isn't wide open like you may have heard in some of the other bills. It is topics specific, but that is another one for the legislature to give itself some more power. And then thirdly, as an example, to tell you all the diverse things that happens in the State Affairs Committee is, as everybody knows, because of COVID, that we have had to lean much more strongly on with telehealth and people working from home and school children working from home in order to have a robust internet or broadband system. And we have some of the least performing per capita in the nation. So this has been a great wake-up call for us to look at where our deficits are for us to be able to do business, to be able to teach our children, or be able to do health care for many people. And so there is a push for being able to do public-private partnerships in order to have many more avenues for local governments and ports of call and transportation systems to be able to have what they need in order to offer the infrastructure for broadband. So anyway, I wanted to give you some ideas about what it is at this midway point, hopefully midway, hopefully it isn't only a third of the way of this legislative session. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and thank you for checking in.
Hey everyone, my name is Ali Rabi. I'm the Senator for District 17 on the Boise bench, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the housing related issues we have going on in the legislature right now. I was able to pass my first bill, which requires that all fees are provided in a lease agreement or written notice so that renters know what they're getting into when they sign on the dotted line for a lease. And that's going to be voted on the Senate floor hopefully next week. That is 1088, and so hopefully that will pass and provide renters a little bit more protection. The legislature also passed yesterday $175 million in rental assistance. We know this is very, very much needed right now. There were over 1,800 evictions in the state of Idaho last year, and most of those happened because people simply couldn't pay their rent. This will allow people to get ahead and hopefully catch up on the rent that they owe. So very glad that passed. That will be available through the Idaho Housing and Finance Association pretty soon, so stay tuned there. I've also been staying up to date on all of our property tax related issues. We know that residents need property tax relief right now. Democrats have proposed many solutions, including expanding our circuit breaker to more low-income families, raising our homeowners exemption cap, and also indexing so that home values don't increase, or our taxes don't increase so much in line with home values, which would allow that resident and commercial property tax burden to balance out a little bit more. Unfortunately, the conversations has been a lot more focused around cutting local government budgets, which wouldn't allow governments to pay for basic services like fire, police, and first responders, and would provide minimal tax relief, maybe $20 per household member. Senator Wintrow also proposed expanding our circuit breaker to certified family homes, benefiting seniors, and that idea was shut down as well. Again, that conversation has been more focused around cutting local government budgets, unfortunately. That bill is coming on the Senate floor next week. So I encourage you to write and call our senators to let them know that is not a good idea.
Hi, I'm Senator Melissa Wintrow from District 19 here in Boise. I'm relieved and happy to say that Senate Bill 1098 passed out of the Senate Human Resource and Commerce Committee this week. It's a simple bill that allows folks to extend their prescription contraception beyond 3 months. As you well know, most insurance companies limit our prescription from 1 to 3 months, but especially during the pandemic, how handy would this be? Very simple. Just allow folks to get more accessibility to their contraception. And we know when we do that, we decrease unplanned pregnancy and we decrease the need for abortions. It's a simple bill. I hope it passes. I'll keep you posted, but this is the 4th time we've tried this. I'm not sure why it hasn't passed. It's pretty common sense, but we'll see what happens.